What's up, everybody? This week, we continue our discussion about the women of 90s rock and look what could be classed as fraud. That and a whole lot more is to come, because maybe if I think I'm paranoid, then it's sure to make you happy. Welcome to the show. You know, I'm never going to get tired of sitting here and doing this stuff, but welcome to the podcast, everybody. Hope you're all having a good week, a good weekend. I apologize for getting this out late. I know usually I try and drop it in the afternoon on a Sunday, and we're kind of looking at, I don't know, about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the night when we're dropping it. I apologize for people who like to listen. I've just been very, very busy the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks, actually, as I've mentioned. And this week in particular, I got everything recorded, and I just had a couple of real bad days, you know, well, not like I usually do, but I have a couple of bad days where I wasn't feeling myself, and I just didn't want to edit audio, especially after spending all day editing audio, but, you know, I had a good couple of days in the middle of the week, and then this weekend I was lucky enough to spend some time out of town. I went from Shreveport, Louisiana, I went to Houston, Texas. Got to see a show, really good event, the Holodecks. Guys, if you ever get the chance to see them, please come see them. They're fantastic. And yeah, you know, that's part of the reason. I mean, yeah, Houston and back, and it's about a 5-hour drive for those of you who don't know, and I spent all day today sleeping, and so yeah, you know, it's just a whole bunch of stuff that I apologize for getting this out there later than what I usually do, but you know, it was all for a good reason and, you know, good fun. This week was also weird for me. On my personal account on Twitter, I had a tweet that went so much, I mean, I'd say viral, but it wasn't really viral. It was, you know, like I had about 500 retweets of the thread that I posted, and to me, that's a lot. I know there are some people listening who are like, 500, wow, but to me, that's a lot, and my phone just blew up the whole day. Yeah, it was weird for me because I couldn't really do anything on the phone. Even though I was trying to do some research for this, I'm trying to research my next topic, which I think is Nick Holmby's High Fidelity, which is I'm going to do a review on after we're done with Women of Rock. But yeah, my phone blew up, and I felt really big for it for a couple of days, and then, you know, I might be wrong, but I stand by my analysis of why I thought I was right, so that's good. But you know, it does show that I need a vacation. It does show that I need some time away from my life, because even in my leisure time, I'm looking at things in the way of audio production. So that tells me that I'm either obsessed or I need a holiday. So also this week, 90s legend, independent filmmaker, and one of my heroes in terms of creativity, Kevin Smith, he had a heart attack, a massive heart attack, while he was doing a couple of one-man shows, and man, that hit me hard. You know, that hit me a little bit because not because I know the guy or anything like that, but I mean, he's tried so hard to work on himself, physically and mentally, over the last couple of years, and I know I've been trying to do that, maybe not to the same scale, but, you know, everybody has a different scale, everybody has a different sliding scale, and, you know, it's just, it's weird, you know, to hear that, and, you know, thankfully he looks like he's on the road to recovery, and, you know, I'm on that way myself, too. We did have one or two things this week that weren't great. A close friend of the family passed, and, you know, it's hit a couple of us hard, and it hasn't hit a couple of us hard. It's hit a couple of us really terribly. But, you know, just little things like that are starting to help me in my own personal life, you know, especially with, like I've mentioned, the depression. I've got some health problems that I'm trying to take care of, and the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks, I've been working towards a whole bunch of stuff, so, you know, I'm starting to feel excited and starting to get better. I also wanted to clarify something I said last week. I want to apologize for the way it came out. Not for what I meant, but how it came out. This is what I said. We had another delay, too, when, you know, I mentioned that we are now responsible for a couple of extra kids because their guardian is very sick, and, you know, that's a real good thing too. I love having them around. We're going to feature one of the guys on our podcast. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. But, you know, what I meant by that, I wasn't trying to say that I'm glad that the person in the situation was sick and not feeling well, and we've got nothing like that. What I meant, what I was trying to say, and it came out completely and utterly wrong, and I apologize for that. Not I apologize for those who were offended. I just apologize for that because it could sound crass. It's hard to watch somebody really, really sick, and it's devastating to the whole family. But at the same time, I'm thankful and I'm happy that we're in a position to help the kids who were affected by the situation. That's what I was kind of trying to say. But you know me, I have this weird condition of being able to put both feet in my mouth at the same time. I could mess up the ABCs in a way that would irritate someone. So I'm trying not to take care of that. Well, I'm trying to take care of that, excuse me. See, exactly, just did it right then, not even thinking about it. So, yeah, I mean, that's what's happened between the last time I spoke to you guys and today. So, again, thank you very much for your patience with me, and again, I apologize for getting this out late. Life happened, but hey, I still made the Sunday deadline, so that's good. Hopefully, we'll have next week's episode up and in the bag by Wednesday. So, ready to go, because I'm going out of town again next weekend. So, in fact, I'm going out of town pretty much every weekend for the next couple of weeks. So, these podcasts are going to be produced very, very quickly. But again, whatever. It's good. Life happens, and if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this right, and I'm going to treat this, like I should. And talking to doing things like I should, guys, if you're on social media, you will have heard about us dropping this podcast. Share the page. Share it to your friends, to your family, to enemies. We're trying to build up our audience. We're starting to kind of level out in terms of the way things are. I just, the only way I know how to do it is to post things on social media and then say, hey guys, can you share this for me? You don't, even if you don't listen to it, just do me a solid this next couple of times and just send it out the door. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr at BecauseMaybePod. We have a new blog that is supposed to be dropping either Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday, about my top 9 women of rock from Europe. Who I think are the cream of the crop of European female musicians in the 90s. Now, maybe Sarah should have written this blog, but I mean, there's a lot of artists in there that I think should get some recognition, especially on this side of the world who never really got it. Check out our YouTube page. I am starting to get stuff together to put videos together of sample content, extra episodes, and so on and so forth, and just try and build up our audience there. So guys, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a long chat with Sarah about the women of rock, where we look at artists, bands, and events that shaped women's rock in the 90s.
Scenes of the 90s.
Alright guys, welcome back. We are in part 2 of our discussion of the great women of rock, and I am continually joined by the wind beneath my wings, the awesomeness behind, whatever you want to call it. They say behind every successful man is a great woman. While I'm not successful, but she is a great woman. Sarah Connolly. Sarah, how are you?
I am fabulous, darling. How are you?
I'm doing good. I try to give you a big intro every time, but
of course,
so my creative juices are not flowing to pull something. If I wrote it down, I probably might be able to get something. But it's 9 o'clock at night. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning, and kids everywhere. Kids everywhere. Great kids, but
fabulous
kids everywhere.
Kids.
Ooh.
Just many of them.
Just too many of them.
They don't die, they multiply.
Yes. don't feed them after midnight.
Oh, he missed my reference.
I can't hear you with the air conditioner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyway. Enough mindless banter. Do you want to dive right into what we're here to talk about?
Yes.
Alright, good. Last week we spent a little bit of time building the foundation of what artists let me start that again. We built the foundation of what female artists were coming into the 90s kind of looking like, and we spent a lot of time talking about Courtney Love. A lot of time talking about Courtney Love.
Sorry about that, guys.
But
you get me started, and I could, yeah.
But it was a good discussion. It was very, very factual, and even some Nirvana fans who I've spoken to since then have kind of made the point, made the thing of you've got a point, So Courtney Love is not going to get too many mentions this week because we basically covered a lot.
Yes.
But we are going to kick things off with just talking about a handful of the bands who were fronted by female lead singers and or songwriters,
Right.
and how their music shaped up. So we're going to start in my neck of the woods with Catatonia.
I concede the floor.
Well, no, I know Sarah's not a big fan of Catatonia.
Oh, I'm not a fan
no,
of Catatonia.
No, I understand that. Catatonia, originally from South Wales, were formed by Karis Matthews and Mark Richards. They were a couple. One of the stories is that they met while busking and formed the band, and that's kind of half true. They knew each other well, and they went busking to test material and stuff like that out. Karis Matthews was tabloid fodder. She had alcohol problems, and I say had because thankfully she's over them now. She was a very, very good poetry writer, I guess is the best way you can describe it. Her lyrics were more poems than, just traditional songs. And the first album they released in the 90s was great, Way Beyond Blue. And it was really, really good. It was a good debut album in the sense that you could tell there was something there, International Velvet was fantastic. Mulder and Scully is a great song.
Yes, that is a good song.
Road Rage is a great song. Strange Glue is epic, and International Velvet itself. If you're Welsh and you do not like International Velvet, there's something wrong with you. Then their next album wasn't really that good, and they kind of fell off the cliff, and the band kind of imploded, partly due to Karis' problems. But Karis Matthews was very, very... She was... What's the best way to say this? She was not a musician. She was just a woman. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. She didn't change who she was. She didn't change how she was. She was. I hate to say this, but she was your typical girl from South Wales.
Right.
Loud, obnoxious, tough. You wouldn't want to get into a fight with her, but at the same time, that whole warmth, and she was honest and passionate.
Right.
Is the best way to describe it. But man, Catatonia were fantastic. I mean, I love them. I think they're great. I've got 3 of their 4 albums, and they're just so good.
Yeah, they fall again into the category of, if they were known stateside, they certainly weren't known in my podunk neck of the woods.
Yeah, I don't think they made too much headway in the States.
Right. So, until the fact, until you and I, got together, yeah. I had not... I'd heard the name before.
And this
in
kind of
passing articles and whatnot, because I used to, I was religious about reading, Rolling Stone and Spin back in the day before children. That's my BC, before children. Right. Yes.
Didn't you were a subscriber to Q and the NME as well?
Yes.
So you knew of a lot of these British acts. One of the reasons I'm bringing up a lot of I'm going to come at this now. UK and European acts. That's kind of the topic of the blog this week. Mm-hmm. So I just want to kind of tie some of that stuff in because there's some really good information in there. The Cardigans are next. Mm-hmm. In the United States, you probably know them for one song, which is "Love Fool."
Yes, and which I can't listen to without seeing Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio dancing around. So yes,
one of the things about that song is the legend goes, and I'm not being able to find proof of this, but the legend goes they wrote that as kind of a protest to their label, because the label wanted them to write more songs like that,
right.
And they were more traditional rock,
right,
and basically put. The label made them come out with that, and they were kind of like, "Oh crap, we've got to come up with some better music." The thing about the Cardigans too is they managed to tap into Sweden's greatest ideal when it came to rock music, and that was producing an annoyingly simple, catchy hook. I think the most famous one is "Europe: The Final Countdown," but they kind of did that with My Favorite Game, and again, the lead singer, and whose name escapes me right now, I probably should have written it down. She had a very, very frosty relationship with the media because the media was all thinking of her as this blonde hair, blue-eyed sex symbol, and she was basically, no, f*** you. I'm a musician.
Right.
And as they became more popular, she became more withdrawn to the point where now she lives in New York and kind of does solo stuff. And you have to turn the phone off when we record. So going back to the UK, the Queens of Britpop, Elastica.
Yes.
Now, they had an unusual stance with a lot of British acts in the sense that they tried to conquer here first before the UK. They were formed out of the ashes of Suede.
Right.
Half the band basically left them. And Justine Frischmann, fantastic lyricist.
Right.
More of a punk sound than, the rock stuff that was going on. More punky.
Love the punk.
And sadly, her relationship with Damon Albarn overshadowed her musical achievements.
Like, if you would ask me.
And Brett Anderson, too.
Right. Okay. You've derailed me. Was Damon Albarn with Brett Anderson, too?
No. Knowing Damon, I don't know. No, but Justine Frischmann was dating Brett Anderson, and then when she left the band, they split, and then she started dating Damon.
Yes, I mean, if you would have asked me, what is Justine Frischmann known for? The first thing I would have said was Damon Albarn. And more than that song from...
Rock Profile?
Yes.
I'll post the link on our on our Facebook page. But it's a shame, really, because Elastica were really, really good.
Right.
I mean, they were...
Well, they had to have been, to be, derived from Suede.
True. No. I'm not, I'll be honest, I'm not a big Suede fan.
Well, they were great musicians.
They were
whether they wrote anything that you liked.
No.
The fact of the matter is that they,
True.
Right.
But Elastica, the way they performed and the way they carried themselves and everything like that, they had just as much swagger and just as much screw you attitude as a lot of the Britpop guys out there.
Right.
And because them and I guess maybe Sleeper were the only two major Britpop acts who were female, they kind of became these guys kind of became queens of Britpop by default.
Right.
Because Sleeper was just a female lead singer and songwriter, which is real funny. If you heard the term sleeper bloke.
That's more of a Brit term than...
Okay, it's a British term, but what it means is you have a lead singer who is either glamorous, sexy, or loud, or and takes the attention away from the rest of the band, and the band members are called sleeper blokes.
Right.
So if you've ever seen No Doubt's video for Don't Sleep, Don't Speak, excuse me, if you see... Tired, everybody. If you see the video for Don't Speak, that whole kind of visualization is the closest example I can give. You go watch that and you understand what I mean. They're only focusing on Gwen Stefani, and the rest of the band is just band,
Right.
Talking of British acts, before we get to more of the single guys, Garbage. This is where I concede the floor. You know about as much about Garbage as you do about Hole.
Well, no.
Not on that level.
No. Well, I mean, we spoke about it last week. We touched on it. I mean, Shirley was in a band called Angelfish, a little independent, on an independent label, who they had a video that was playing on MTV late at night, or it was on 120 Minutes.
120 Minutes.
Right. And Butch and company were watching it and decided that's who they wanted. They wanted to put together a band, and they were looking for a lead singer, and it wasn't going to be a grunge band. It was going to be a hard rock band. Butch, I'm guessing wanting to distance himself from the whole Nirvana thing. I mean,
he was right in with the other two members of the band, and they were doing more like experimental stuff. And they had a lot of instrumental stuff that they had.
See, he knows more than he says he does.
Had some lyrics. Well, remember, I did the blog this week. They had some lyrics for, but they wanted a lead singer who was not pop queen.
Right.
And they wanted a lead singer who... They didn't want Kylie Minogue, and they didn't want Courtney Love.
Right.
They wanted somebody with a unique voice who could be themselves. And I think...
Yeah, but Shirley, I mean, okay, Shirley is like glammed up Scottish Courtney. I mean, like, if you put both of them into a fight, I don't know who'd win.
Oh, no, I get that. But
I mean, they both have that really tough as nails, loud, brash thing going.
But at the same time, Shirley Manson's voice, she sang more
Oh,
than
yeah.
screamed.
Right.
And they were looking for somebody who didn't scream a lot. Is I guess what I was
Yes.
I was trying to make. Because, Shirley Manson's from she's Scottish. Scottish women are formidable to begin with. Yeah. The only ones more formidable are Irish women.
Right. No, but I mean, Shirley. Okay. Even when Shirley sang Scornful, it was sexy.
Yes. She does have a very, very sexy voice.
I mean, just amazingly sexy voice. And so I adore her.
You can picture the lipstick and
Yes.
the flirty eyes as she's singing.
Yes.
Even if she's
and they're also on that same damn Romeo and Juliet soundtrack. Thanks.
I have to get that for you one day. Before we jump over to this side of the world,
we won't discuss, teenage Sarah stalking around the bedroom singing that damn song either. Hairbrushes for microphones. It was bad.
What I'll do, everybody, is I'll get a couple of drinks inside and put a microphone in front of it.
Right?
No, I'm not going to do that. Maybe.
I can nail all the garbage songs on Rock Band, but yeah.
Sweet.
Whichever.
Before we jump over to this side of the world, we're going to take a brief detour to Ireland. And I mentioned last week I wasn't a big fan, but the Cranberries.
Okay.
Even though they weren't traditional rock and they were more folky, if you take Zombie aside. See,
Right.
this is the thing. The Cardigans' Love Fool was the kind of oddity. And it became their biggest hit, whereas the rest of the stuff was more hard rocking. Whereas Zombie was more hard rocking, but the Cranberry stuff was more mellow.
Right.
Were you a fan of the Cranberries?
Oh my God. That first album, and that second album too, but mainly that first album, that was like the soundtrack to my early teen angst. Oh my goodness. Linger? Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
While I wasn't
And we all sang it with really bad Irish accents. Yes.
No, yeah, I wasn't a big fan, but I mean, her voice, I loved her voice.
Right. Oh, yeah. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. And then when you go back and listen to it again, like after she passed, I was listening to a bunch of stuff, and When You're Gone, that guts you, especially now. I mean, it's hard to listen to on a normal day, but now that it can be taken a different way, you know what I mean? It's just, I mean, she was such a talented vocalist.
Yes, she was. She was. I mean, not just that, multi-talented musician as well. Right. And see, that I love stuff like that. I love, and it's not just women in rock, just in general, multi-talented musicians. Folks who can write and sing and play. I mean, that really gets to me. So that kind of takes care of the major European bands.
Right.
I mean, there were some more like Portishead and Skunk Anansie, and as I mentioned, Sleeper. But really, these were the biggest.
Right.
On this side of the world, in my opinion, the biggest band that was led by a female was No Doubt.
Correct. That's right up there, yeah.
That the first couple of albums, I mean, a combination of pop, rock, and ska. Oh.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing about it is, though, the mystique of Gwen Stefani has been distilled a little bit.
Yes.
Over the years. But, okay, do you want to know how much of an OG badass rock star she was?
Go on.
Here's the thing, okay? Not only was she cute and adorable and talented with her, her little ponytail and the red lips and the blonde hair and,
she's just
jumping around. Yes. Okay.
Little her.
This, right? This wonderful lady co-wrote all of the music. She wrote all the lyrics to everything.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So she had been in a relationship with the bassist, Tony. They break up. She writes a multi-platinum selling album about their breakup, performs it for years, and makes him play it on stage with her while she sings about how bad he screwed up for years.
On the one hand, that's badass. In his defense, after he probably heard Don't Speak for the first time, he probably thought, you know what? this is going to be a big hit. I'm going to be able to live off this.
Right.
He's going to get some royalties.
Right. Now, you know, subsequent albums, you know, all the boys get the girls on the back. Yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah. And her solo, I'm not a fan of her solo stuff, I'll be completely honest. It's just, it's not the style of music that I enjoy.
We could tie Hollaback Girl back to Courtney.
Yeah, that's true. But, right. But, I mean, no doubt they had talent and they had an attitude. Yes. And it was, you know, it was a good attitude,
right.
But it was an attitude nonetheless, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, they're, you know, just random trivia. Their very first album, long before Tragic Kingdom, their very first album had a single on it, which is where I had first heard them. Once again, 120 Minutes.
Yeah.
Called Trapped in a Box, which is awesome.
Yes, it is. In fact, your awesome just sounded like half the lyrics and stuff.
Right. That's back when Gwen's brother, who was a founding member of the band, was still on keyboard. Now, their drummer actually was not their original drummer.
No.
Their drummer was originally a fan who used to follow them to every single show that they went on, and he learned all the songs as a fan just because he wanted to learn all their songs.
Right.
And so when their drummer left, he was like, oh, snap. And so, I mean, he just jumped up on the kit and went off. And, of course, because he knew everything by heart. Yeah, so which is just fabulous.
Was it Travis Barker band? No.
Right.
Greatest drummer alive.
But, I don't know. Patty Schimmel's good.
What about the one album wonder that was Four Non Blondes?
Oh my god. Okay. Now,
for kids out there, that's the He-Man song.
Yes. Okay. This is Linda Perry. Oh my god, Linda Perry. Okay. Linda Perry does not get enough credit. Most people.
No, she doesn't.
People today, especially younger fans of music, just in general, all of you who came of age in the early noughts, you have no idea how much your, current library is dependent or was dependent on Linda Perry's either direct or indirect influence.
Yeah.
Everyone from Pink to James Blunt. Yeah. Yes. Beautiful was written in her bathroom.
I should have stayed there.
Oh, shush you. If you can find the Linda Perry and Pink sessions, there are some wonderful YouTube videos out there.
They're very good.
That are awesome. But Linda Perry has had her fingers in many musical pies. She helped co-write and produce the Courtney's American Sweetheart.
There you go, see?
Okay, so 6 degrees of everywhere. All right, but and she is now happily married to Sarah Gilbert, who most know from Roseanne. And one of those, there was The Talk, The Chew, The View, whatever. There's one of those shows with 57, females sitting around a table, and she's on one of them. Whichever one Sharon Osbourne is on, that's the one she's on.
Sharon. Yeah.
So,
it's talking about is fine.
Right, but yeah, Linda and Sarah are married with a little one now, which is great because Linda is awesome and deserves all kinds of happiness.
And she does. That to me, that's always struck me as the most oddest couple ever.
Well, not really. They have the same hair.
Yeah, well, yeah. They have the same piss and top hats, too.
Well, no, but I mean, Linda, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, and even if you don't know, somebody listening can correct me if I'm wrong. From what I can remember in interviews and whatnot over the years, they came out with Four Non Blondes. They did the Bigger, Better, Faster, More album.
Yep. Great album, by the way.
Yes. Oh, God. I think, was it the Grammys or some award show that year, and I don't remember what it was, but it was one of them. Phil Collins was a presenter or an introducer or something.
Leech.
Right. Oh, stop it. And I remember being, God, I was what? This is in 94?
You'd be about 13, 14.
Right, yeah. So, I remember them bringing on, he had to introduce them, and he was talking about the album, and of course the album's title is Bigger, Better, Faster, More. It was like, he made some stupid joke that I can remember to this day about how, something, and if you get to their album, which is, a titled something that my wife has never had to say, or something. And I remember being just scandalized at my little young age, looking at Phil Collins of all people making a sex joke on TV.
Yeah, take a look at me now.
Yeah,
nope, not anymore.
Nope. Okay, sorry.
No,
We sort of went.
Couple of honorable mentions for bands with predominant females in there. Go to Smashing Pumpkins.
DRC.
Yep. Ash with Charlotte Hatherley, and I think I mentioned Skunk and Nancy. Weird band. Love them. So we move on. We've now talked about the groups. Let's talk about the solo artists of the decade. And we're going to start with Polly Jean. We're going to start with Polly Jean Harvey.
Okay.
PJ Harvey, a fantastic singer-songwriter. For those of you not here to, she was playing as like a session musician,
Yes,
and backing vocalist of some small-town band, and her and the rhythm section kind of broke off.
Right, as one does,
and formed the PJ Harvey Trio. Mm-hmm. They were so bad at their first gig that everybody walked up and the barman threw money at them and said, "You've been paid, get off my stage."
That's fabulous.
And even she admitted, later it was like, yeah, it probably wasn't the best.
Right.
I think she had 3 or 4 really, really good albums that came out during the 90s. And for my sins, I didn't hear about her. I wasn't following that deep into music at that time. I started following deep into music when I was like 16.
Right.
And she released an album in 2000 or 2001 called Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea. Mm-hmm. And that's a fantastic album. I could talk about that album all day.
Right.
It's cameos with Tom York. Real good production value. Her one thing I love about PJ Harvey is her voice.
Yes.
She's just like, it sounds very, very haunting without effects on it.
Right.
Which is very, very hard to do.
Right.
I think she's fantastic. She's a fantastic guitar player, multi-talented musician, songwriter, producer, the works. That's why she's one of my favorite female musicians. One of my favorite musicians of all time anyway. Do you have any insight into PJ?
You've hit the highlights on that one, honey.
Well, what I mean is, over on this side of the world, was it another one of these? She wasn't on radio in,
okay, from
Mississippi.
Here, right? I mean, down here, she wasn't, unless you were an MTV head, I was.
Back when they played music,
right? You didn't really hear much of her.
Okay,
so
I got you. Okay, and after PJ, another non-American female musician with a lot of spunk, Alanis Morissette.
Oh, Alanis. Okay, but I grew up on Alanis. Back on, you can't do that on television.
True.
Back in the 80s, and that was my first TV show that I remember. And for all of you youngins out there, that's where sliming comes from.
Yes,
that is where Nickelodeon got started sliming people. Was that show?
Was there anybody else on that show who we might know?
Oh, gosh.
Or was it just a lot of people on there?
There was a lot of people. Yeah, we'd have to go back and look. But it was a show that was originally made in Canada.
Oh, okay.
So
they used liters of slime instead of gallons.
Right. But I remember just being little and coming home from, it was a show I had no business watching at 5, 6, 7 years old. But my mom was, pimp tight like that. So, I absolutely adored that show. So, I grew up on Alanis, and when I saw her again, as a musician in the 90s, I was like, whoa.
Jagged Little Pill, I've listened to it recently.
Right.
And mainly for the episode we're going to do next week. But one of the things that strikes me about that album is
how much of a bastard Dave Coulier was.
Well, there's that.
Right.
Because I don't hear the singles, and you know, You Ought to Know was like all over the place. You know, when it was released.
Oh yeah, that was every angry young woman's anthem back in the day.
For modern listeners, it's a much better song, much better breakup song than say When He Cheats by not Kelly Clarkson, the other American Idol. Carrie Underwood. There's only two of them I can remember. So I listened to the album, and I was expecting this whole angry, screw you guys, screw the world kind of, you know, Courtney Love is my new BFF. and I was shocked that it was as mellow as it was.
Right.
Is that typically true of a lot of Alanis' work? Is it more mellow than what the singles, I guess, from that?
Well, yeah, I mean, once she worked through her issues, I mean, as you go on and to further albums, I mean, Thank You was a beautiful song. Isn't that the video where she cut her hair?
No, that's the video where she was naked with...
Yeah, and they cut her hair.
Oh, I can't... Yes,
it's the video where she... I mean, okay.
Do you think look, I saw that video when I was 15, 16, whenever it was out. I was a young...
You just saw Babs, right?
I just saw hair covering boob. I mean, you know, soon.
And then you just... Yeah.
Yeah. But, no... Again, she's a very, very good musician, multi-talented songwriter, so on and so forth. And, of course, the only person on this list who you can say is God.
This is true.
She is God.
Yes, thank you, Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith. Get well soon, buddy.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Kevin Smith had a heart attack 2 days ago. So, 2 days ago when I recorded this.
Right.
Anyway. So it'd be 4 days. I don't know. Anyway, get well soon, buddy.
And then Alan Rickman will never hear the voice of God again. Oh, why did you bring that up?
I'm so sorry. But Alanis is still here. The voice isn't here. But
this is true.
But God is.
And we'll always have Chris Rock.
Yeah. Alan Rickman's not here. Affleck's still alive. I like Ben Affleck. I'm sorry.
So do I.
Anyway, but no, again, Alanis, fantastic. She's awesome and deserves everything that, every success that she's had her way. Especially the cover of My Humps that she did a couple of years ago. That was so funny, yet so good at the same time. And I think that's what Alanis has a talent. She
can make any song good.
Yeah.
You give her a piano, and she can take even the most asinine song, like Black Eyed Peas' My Humps, and make it just haunting and beautiful. And she even did a video for it. And Fergie sent her like I mean, if I remember correctly, Fergie filled her dressing room with roses after she heard it. And oh yeah, so maybe she could remix that Fergie's national anthem performance from the other day.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I'm a little salty this evening, y'all. Yes.
Yes, you are. Well, if it makes you happy, I guess. Sorry.
Yay.
Worst segue ever. I know. That was
yes.
too cheesy. But Sheryl Crow.
Yes. Love her.
I love Sheryl Crow, too, I think.
Sheryl is the mom.
I guess I'm running out of ways to say how much I love singer-songwriter females who play instruments.
Mm-hmm. There's not a bad song on Tuesday Night Music Club.
No, there isn't. It's a damn good album.
Mm-hmm.
Multi-talented musician in the sense that... Alright, Alanis plays guitar. Alright? Elastica, Justine Frischmann played guitar. Shirley Manson sometimes gets on the keys. So on and so forth. Sheryl Crow is the only female musician that I've seen that has played multiple instruments on stage live. Like, she broke up with the guitar, then she got behind the piano, then she got...
an accordion. An accordion.
Accordion, bass guitar.
Right.
I mean, so...
She can hold her own on stage with Clapton.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But then again, But, no, Sheryl Crow was fantastic. I mean, is fantastic. A long relationship with Lance Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
Which, thankfully, unlike Justine Frischmann, she was able to, that was
She was bigger internationally before that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it was a footnote in
Right.
her thing as opposed to being, you know, the attention bit. But I mean, some of the songs I love if it makes you happy. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite songs. I wish I could get in that range and warble it. I can't sing to begin with, but I can't even attempt to sing that because my voice goes, you know.
Right. And I remember, you know, what I love about Cheryl is her first album. It just showed how much of a musician she was,
Yes.
right? But she didn't go, I mean, she was just her. She was just this down to earth, which is hilarious when you realize that she made her, you know, she got into the business by being a backup singer for Michael Jackson.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes. Yeah, you know, YouTube is your friend. They actually did a couple of duets together on stage back on some of his tours.
Interesting.
Yeah, Cheryl with a perm and really big 80s hair. Oh, yes, glorious. But her first album, you know, she was just this down home earth mama, you know, who could just rock it out. You know what I mean? This California earth mama thing.
Yeah.
Type chick. And then her second album, you know, she sort of morphed her persona. And I remember, again, back in the day, because I knew what I couldn't listen to here, right? Yeah. And this is before YouTube and LimeWire, etc. was not a thing at this point in time. We still had, no, it was before, whatchamadiddle?
Napster?
Yeah, this was pre-Napster. Oh, shut up. But
no,
But I mean, like, you could watch MTV and VH1, and people would send in, you know, like there would be a scrolling, or people could comment on videos.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Right, and so I mean, I would record music videos all day, every day.
Yep.
When I could, but I remember like watching and just being completely baffled when all of these guys started commenting on the "If It Makes You Happy" video, because that was the first, you know, sex symbol Cheryl.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh my God, Cheryl got hot. And I'm like, she's always gorgeous. What the hell? But I mean, you put any chick, you know, in red lipstick and a mini skirt, and the boys tend to perk up a little bit.
Yeah, that's a sad indictment of my people.
Yeah.
Sheryl Crow kind of has reinvented herself over the last couple of years.
Quite a few times.
She now does more country stuff.
Yes.
So I think that's really, really cool that, you know, any musician can go from genre to genre and knock it out of the park. You know,
I want to hear, has she done any duets with Darius Rucker that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Because that would be a good one. I mean, she did that. You know, that's really to this day the only Kid Rock song I could really still
I can't
stomach is Picture. Cheryl's wonderful at duets.
Yes, she is. She is. I mean,
she's fabulous at everything.
But yeah, of course she is. I mean, she's Sheryl Crow. I mean, you know. But no, for me, I love her music. I think that she's, again, wonderfully talented, and, you know, dang, I want to sing If It Makes You Happy at the top of my lungs, but I can't. Thank you, vocal cords.
I want to interject someone here.
Sure, go ahead.
Fiona Apple.
Fiona Apple. I knew I forgot someone.
Yes. She was not on your list, so I'm interjecting her right here. Because she fits. Fiona is another one of those multi-instrumental ladies. Made her debut with her first single, Shadowboxer, at the age of 18. Recorded everything at 17. Debuted at 18. Which at the time, I mean, the closest thing that we would have to Fiona Apple now was Lorde. Okay. I mean, but she was our generation's Lorde, I guess you could say. I mean, she wrote these, you know, big haunting songs, and, you know, had a beef with Courtney.
Can't get away from it, can you?
All right. No, but I mean, she was just amazing. And then she sort of faded into the background of everything after that MTV acceptance speech, when she told all the kids listening that the world was bullshit. And after that was back when that was still a big no-no.
Yeah.
And she sort of faded away to the ether, which was really sad because she was awesome.
And a lot of people fell afoul of MTV in the 90s and never kind of made it back. Yeah, Fiona Apple, that's a great shout, and apologies to Fiona Apple fans, I'm sorry I missed it. I can also, there's a couple of other names who off the top of my head I missed, but we'll get to them here in honorable mention, I guess. Talking to multi-talented, multi-instrumental people, Tori Amos.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We can do like 6
episodes
of Tori.
Basically you put any form of keyed instrument in front of her, and she could play it as good as anybody who ever has. Wonderful voice, fantastic lyricist, like Karis Matthews, a poet more than...
Right, but she also... There's no one in the business who hates Tori.
No, nicest woman in rock.
She's the Molly Holly of rock. I mean, there's no one, I mean, and Tori, I've never heard Tori have a bad word about anybody.
No.
I remember this, somebody was asking her about, Trent Reznor and how, let me back up for a second. Tori was the first spokesperson for Rain.
Yes. Wonderful charity.
Right. And right about this time, someone was basically, some interviewer was trying to get her to say something that they could spin as something negative.
Right.
As they tend to do sometimes. And I don't know exactly how it was worded, the question. But what they were trying to do was get some quote from her in the negative about 9 Inch Nails and Trent Reznor's anger and how it could be perceived as anger against women.
Right.
And at which point she pointed out that, unless Trent actually had done something to someone, then she wasn't going to judge him for anything. But as far as his anger goes, she said that, you don't get that anger without being hurt. And that you can't hurt that much without having a heart that big to begin with.
Ooh.
And now I'm paraphrasing this, obviously.
Yes.
But that has stuck with me just as much as any of her lyrics have over the years, because when you meet people who were just so angry,
there's a reason they're angry.
There's a reason, and it could be. Now, some people are just a-holes to be a-holes. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But, some people are angry all the time because they're hurt, and they're hurt because they had a heart that big to begin with. And, it was just one of the many life lessons that Tori passed along through the years. Yeah, Tori's music has saved many a person.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think she's fantastic. I'm not a big fan. I haven't listened to as much as maybe I should have. Call myself a music fan, but what I have heard has been absolutely fantastic. In my head, when you were talking about the MTV thing, the only thing I could think of was Tony Katane trying to goad Florence Henderson into smacking her on VH1 a few years ago.
My God.
Yeah. Talk about obscure reference.
Mm-hmm. We used to have a bad VH1 habit.
Yes.
That was about the time of Flavor of Love, huh?
Oh,
yeah.
Flavor Flav, yes. The man.
Yep.
Well, talking of eccentric musicians, Bjork.
Yes.
What can you say about Bjork? Unique.
Yes.
Multi-styled.
Yes.
Multi-talented.
Swan dress.
Yes. Very
Icelandic princess.
Overprotective of her children, quite
As
rightly
she should
so.
be.
There have been at least 2 instances where she's punched paparazzo's right in the face,
should.
as she should, who are trying to get pictures of her and her kids.
Mm-hmm.
Leeches, all of them. I'm not going to be able to say much about Bjork, but because I mean,
you can't listen to It's So Quiet and not just be blown away.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
And that's not even her best song.
No.
That's just what most people, the first one that they hear is.
And you find that with a lot of musicians too, not just
Right.
you know, not just, their most famous song is not their best song.
Right.
Wonderwall. But I mean, yeah, no, still going strong to this day. I mean, a lot of these folks we were talking about, the bands have either split up or they're not as active. And looking at her discography when I was writing the blog this week, it looks like she averages an album every 2 years.
Right.
Which, you know,
It's not bad.
it's not bad. So she's released basically 12 or 13 albums in the last 25 years. And, you know, they're all of high quality. Yes. I mean, really high quality.
Of course. They're yours.
Right? I mean, you know, they were, when they got released, they were released to euphoric praise. And, you know, just a fantastic musician. Humanitarian, political activist, you know, there's very little I can leave out.
You don't want to get on her bad side, though.
No.
He has a mean right hook.
No, I mean, I know Iceland technically isn't Scandinavia, but she's still got that Scandinavian temper. Yes. You know, I mean, my aunt was from Scandinavia. I've seen. We also have, and let's throw some honorable mentions out there real quick. Melissa Etheridge, Poe, Lillith Fair, yes. Sarah McLachlan. Yes. I missed those from the list. So, but I mean, again, all talented, all songwriters, all singers. You know, real.
Yeah, I mean, Melissa Etheridge is the female Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Point blank.
I can completely see full chords.
Right.
But one of the things you mentioned when I was trying to get this research and everything is that the idea of counterparts. For every female act out there, for every male act out there, excuse me, there was a female yang. You know, the yin to the yang. So you said 9 Inch Nails
and Tori.
You also said, if I remember rightly, it was Nirvana, and I think you said Lillith Fair, who was kind of the opposite but the same.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on what they kind of
what the yin and yang was?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's back it up. We'll look at the first example. We'll look at Tori and Trent. Again, I mean, take the quote mentioned earlier aside. You know, it's, if you looked at a CD collection, anybody's CD collection, if you looked at their CD rack back in the day, you know, and you put together some eclectic playlists, you know, actually back then you would have to record it onto a tape and make a mixtape, but you know, whichever.
That's where mixtape comes from.
I know,
it was
right?
on a tape.
Yes. So if you made a mix, those are, you know, you would look at the male acts and the female acts that could coexist peacefully, even if they weren't quite the same genre of music. Okay. But you would know that someone who owned one might own the other. Okay. You know what I mean? It was probable that they owned the other and that they could coexist on the same mixtape without somebody's, you know, without hearing the metaphorical record scratch and the
Okay, I understand. Okay, I understand what you mean now.
Right. So if you know, like, you could listen to Perfect Drug on the same mixtape as Call to Light Sneeze. So I mean, no one would think twice about it.
Okay, so it's stuff that you'd listen to that wouldn't seem out of place.
Right.
Okay.
They go together like peanut butter jelly time.
They go together like ham and cheese. Beans and toast.
Ah.
Burkamp and Henri.
Oh, whatevs.
Yeah, you're still gloating from Sunday.
Of course I am. Why wouldn't I be?
She's a City fan. And she's a City fan because of the Gallagher brothers, not because of the money.
Right.
I'm an Arsenal fan because I liked yellow over red. And all my family were Liverpool fans. And I remember watching the yellow team beat the red team in the last minute and win the league in '89, baby! Okay. One of the things that I noticed in the 90s was this trend of pop stars
trying
their hand at rock music. Kind kind of, now I'm not saying that they should have stayed in the lane or anything. Like, they actually were kind of successful. But I mean, it was, you don't see that often these days. It's usually people from other genres going into pop. I mean, look at Pink. She was R&B and then went straight into pop. Taylor Swift, country, now pop.
Right.
But in the 90s, there was kind of this weird dichotomy of pop stars wanting to rock out.
Right.
Kylie Minogue was the biggest example. For those of you who don't know, Kylie Minogue was supposed to sing on the Manic Street Preachers album in 1991. Her place was taken by Tracy Lords,
right,
of all people. Because her record label didn't want her to have anything to do with any alternative music or anything like that, ruin her image. But in the mid-90s, she kind of switched her act from this bubblegum pop to more dark,
right,
indie stuff, for lack of a better term. I think she had a relationship with Michael Hutchence at some point as well. Either a friendship or something more. And that influenced her style as well.
Right.
And she had a big, big friendship with James Bradfield of the Manic Street Preachers. And she went really, really dark. And it's really, really odd seeing that. Because the little diminutive Kylie, who never said a bad word about anyone, suddenly singing stuff that wouldn't sound out of place on an NXS album or a Manic Street Preachers album. Another one who did that was Mel C of the Spice Girls.
Right.
Her actual first dip into rock was with a duet with Bryan Adams.
If God loves us, why did he give us Bryan Adams?
Canadian musicians kind of fall into that. Canadian musicians kind of fall into that hole. They're either really, really good or we hate them.
No, Brian's okay. That was a quote from a friend of mine from back in the day. No,
okay.
Although Nickelback, that does hold true to that. Bieber. Oh God.
Yeah.
Avril.
See, Avril. Yeah, there you go. Avril Lavigne married Chad Kroger, I think.
That's the most Canadian thing ever.
I think everybody's too polite to say that it'll be bland.
Oh, they're already divorced though.
Oh. Well, the thing is, again, I'll Nickelback hate, I never understand it. Justin Bieber hate, I can understand it partially, but as a musician, he's there to be respected.
He's a damn good musician.
Yeah, but Mel C did a duet with Bryan Adams,
yes.
When You're Gone, worldwide smash hit. I love that song, I think it's great, I don't care if anybody else. And that kind of gave her ideas, not necessarily above her station, but
right.
While the rest of the Spice Girls solo stuff was kind of in the same vein, she released it with she kicked off with a I think it was a response to the Sex Pistols, and she cut her hair short, got her tattoos out, and just started rocking.
Right.
Going Down, I think it was the name of the first track on her first solo album, and it was just a complete image change.
Well, yeah, I mean, she went from being this, wholesome, chavvy.
Yeah.
I mean, she was the one in the tracksuit. I'm not saying that to be, whatever, but it was the 90s. And you put the sporty one in a tracksuit with the ponytail.
And the hooped earrings.
Yeah, so... Yes.
No, I understand. But ironically, she's the Ringo Starr of the Spice Girls. The biggest selling Spice Girl. Ringo Starr's the biggest selling Beatle. Seriously.
I don't think he is anymore. I think that's changed. But up until like 5 or 10 years ago, he certainly was.
Yeah, because, I mean...
Well, Paul keeps steadily cranking stuff out.
Yeah, but you can only find that in the bargain bin at Starbucks these days.
Well, perhaps, but not since... Okay, pre-digital age, Ringo.
Yeah, okay.
Ringo was the best-selling solo Beatle. But with... people buy a lot of singles, obviously, in the digital age. And so I think Paul
might have...
Paul or John... Either one, I don't know who is the leader, but I'm fairly certain, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, that both John and Paul have edged him out single-wide.
Shame, really, because Thomas the Tank Engine deserves better.
Yes, Thomas always deserves better.
For those of you who don't know, Ringo Starr was the voice of Thomas the Tank Engine in the UK.
Yes, and was here before Carlin took over.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing ever. George Carlin doing a kids show. He hated kids. Well, he attested on stage that he hated kids.
You like that paycheck though?
Oh yeah, I love George Carlin. George Carlin probably loved kids too. But we also had slow and folk rockers too in the 90s. Lisa Loeb.
Oh, Lisa Loeb.
who looks like you when you wear the certain kind of glasses. Another one of your favorites, Jewel.
Yes.
And one of my favorites, and look, I'll be completely honest, this was just because of the lead singer.
She's on the list.
She was the list for a long, long time. Now that I've grown up, you know, I feel guilt for my list. Let's put it that way. The Cause.
Mm-hmm.
Great band, brothers, bat crazy. But you know what?
Most brothers and bands are bat crazy.
No, we're talking like, you know,
like legit crazy. Yeah.
he's probably got a tinfoil fedora.
Right.
So, and also in the 90s, there was country girls who tried more, who had a more rock attitude.
Oh yeah, you
like-
had the Country Spice Girls, which were the Dixie Chicks.
Yeah, the Dixie Chicks, and man, they kicked up a few beehives.
Right.
in the
Well, yeah, but I
2000s.
mean, okay.
Deservedly so.
Dixie Chicks pre George Bush. All right, Dixie Chicks pre the war
Yeah.
were loved, completely beloved. They
Especially when their posters were torn off the wall.
well, right? No, they were highly talented. Of course, they've
Yeah.
always been talented, but you know, they were the darlings of country music. They were country's response to the Spice Girls, dressed like them, you know, whatnot. Then the war happened in the early noughts.
Yep.
And things sort of went to poo afterward because people lost their damn minds. And then one of my favorite songs ever came out of that. And one of our favorite documentaries that we
Yes.
that we still quote
Yes.
all the time it came out of that.
Interesting enough, the album in that documentary, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, was like the backing band.
Mm-hmm.
It was Flea and Chad Smith. Oh, Will Ferrell, I think. I don't know.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, those ladies are just amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And even to this day, I would highly suggest listening to their version of Wrecking Ball. Laugh all you want
No,
to.
I've heard it.
Again, they have this Alanis type ability to take even the weirdest damn song and make it just haunting and beautiful. And they did a version of Landslide, if I'm not mistaken. And the really cool thing about it is most of the people, the Dixie Chicks, and most of the people that we've talked about were in my favorite festival of all freaking time.
And I'm going to let you take the floor on this one.
Lillith Fair.
What was Lillith Fair for the uneducated amongst us,
Okay.
including myself?
Lillith Fair was a festival of women artists, women-led bands, such as, you know, the Cardigans and whatnot. You know, women-fronted bands, women songwriters, singers. It was, you know, back then, America rediscovered festivals in the 90s. You know, we had a couple of successful ones in the 60s. You know, we had Monterey Pop and Woodstock and all that stuff.
Those are mostly one-offs, though.
Right. I mean, now the UK, they do festivals all the frickin' time.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys just relish having the opportunity to get drunk in a field with the stage.
Right. I think
You do it well.
I think there are only 3 major ones in the
Glas-
UK:
Glasgow,
Reading and Leeds, and I think Tea in the Park in Scotland.
Right. Well, either way, y'all do it quite well.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, I think it's because we're so freaking big.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, but in '94, we decided let's do another Woodstock for some reason, and it was horrible.
Mud fight.
Yes, no, it was horrible. It was
Nothing
a bunch
screams-
of ass kids and
Nothing screams anti-establishment more than $6 bottled water.
well, yeah, there was that too, and this was in '94. But
Good Lord.
right, but I mean, just kids are being rude to vendors and tearing stuff down, and I just, this is why we can't have nice things. So,
millennials.
Right? No, these were my people, Gen Xer crappers.
I'm a millennial, guys. Don't fight. Remember, the hate mail goes to @Donald Trump.
Right. So at real Donald Trump.
At real Donald Trump.
But you had Woodstock came back, and then you had Lollapalooza, and all this stuff, and women weren't getting, as we've discussed, their rightful, representation. They weren't getting equal representation. And so Sarah McLachlan, who, if you're not familiar with her, if you've ever seen a commercial with a dog looking sad. Yeah. You've heard her. So Sarah McLachlan got together with some folks at her record label and snatched up her bestie, Paula Cole, and decided to make a music festival. And it was fabulous. And there were CD box sets. Now, keep in mind, I didn't live in a town where that was cool enough for Lillith Fair to come here. Nor was there one in driving distance for me at the time. So I lived on the release of the box sets every year for the festival. But all of these wonderful ladies that were mentioned had, they got together with multiple stages and whatnot. I mean, we're talking Sinead O'Connor did one year, Dixie Chicks, Sean Colvin, Alanis did one year, the Cardigans, Lisa Loeb, I think, Sheryl Crow. In fact, there's a recording, if I'm not mistaken, again, Sheryl Crow and duets. Sheryl Crow did a song, I think it was a Sheryl Crow song that was strong enough with the Dixie Chicks.
Yes.
That was recorded originally at Lillith Fair.
Really?
Yes. Or at least there was a version of it done at Lillith Fair.
Okay.
The Cranberries, if I'm not mistaken, performed at Lillith Fair. I mean, it was just, Tori's done it too. I could be wrong on that last one. I don't know if that was...
If you were a female musician in the 90s, you played Lillith Fair.
You played Lillith Fair because it was a place to go where people were coming to listen to the music. People weren't coming to see what your bra cup size was. And it was fabulous. It was amazing.
It was a pure music festival.
Right. And some of my favorite versions of songs are from those multi-CD box sets. Paula Cole has a song called Mississippi, and if you could find it off of the second Lillith Fair composition, it is just the most beautiful, gut-wrenching version. And the thing also, Lillith Fair was multi-genre.
Yes.
I mean, Queen Latifah was there. Lots of different R&B and rap acts and whatnot.
They were good to Mama.
Right. Oh, great. Now I'm going to have Chicago songs in my head all night.
You planted that seed in my head 40
you had it
years
coming.
ago.
You had it coming. He ran into my knife.
Yes.
Anyway, so you dirty bum.
Thank you. That's what she's done for me, guys. No more football musicals.
But if you'd have been there, if you'd have seen it, you would have done the same. No, but Lillith Fair was just amazing. And then all good things must come to an end because eventually it got commercialized.
Yeah.
And they finished it in the early noughts, and then a few years later they tried to do a revamp of it, and it wasn't the same. It wasn't as organic anymore. Basically, back in the day, you could roll up to Lillith Fair, and all the girls walking around looking like the sisters from Charmed. I mean, there would be people there there would be some that would be completely dolled up. But there were booths there with everything from holistic herbs to, just everything. And it was just...
Then it ended with $8 water.
As things usually do, because this is why we can't have nice things. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. Like if you weren't able to catch a show, because I mean they took it across the country.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, it was a touring
Festival.
Yes,
And I think that's one of the ways that you guys compensate for the fact that this is such a big place. You tour with the festival. I know they're like Blink-182 played the Skating Festival.
Yeah, the Vans Warped Tour,
Ozfest.
Now Coachella doesn't, but they have two weekends.
Yeah, and South by Southwest doesn't either.
Right, but that's like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or you know, if you're oh, I can't think of it. I could see his face. If you're Ja Rule, you could just pretend you're gonna have a festival on an island. It's on fire.
Right.
So,
now talking to festivals and females in the UK, I don't know if it's been a law or if it's just an agreement. I'm gonna have to look on that. But festival organisers have agreed to balance the card, the performance on that. So there's going to be like I'll use 90s bands as an example because I can't think of any crap music these days. If Nirvana play on night 1 as a headline slot, Hall would play night 2 with a headline slot, and they'd kind of, you know, the equality between the acts.
Right.
Do you think, and we're going to wrap up with this question, in terms of recognition, in hindsight, rock musicians in the 90s, both male and female, were as equally talented as each other? And what I mean by that is, and I say looking back in hindsight, you know, if you just played... Okay, look, cards on the table. I know that right now we live in an unequal world when it comes to men and women in terms of credit and in terms of so on and so forth. But compared to what it was in the 90s, we are much further ahead than what we used to be.
Right.
So, you know, even though right now it's not as equal as it should be, which is 100% equal, let's just say it's 85% equal right now, it was only maybe 65% in the 90s, right? Just give or take.
Well, yes, okay. Behind the scenes, probably. I mean, I don't know. Well, yeah, I don't know contracts and representation, all that stuff.
No.
I don't know how much more men got paid than women in the 90s. I know it was a lot.
I mean more along the lines of critical acclaim.
Critical acclaim? Well, I mean, it's hard to use the 90s for that simply because the 90s were the first breakout.
Yeah.
So, I mean, women rock acts or in the 90s were like, you know, women's doo-wop acts in the 60s. I mean, they were just everywhere.
Right.
And which was amazing.
Were they getting the same recognition as the guys?
It was closer than it ever had. It's damn like sure closer than the 80s.
Okay.
So, I mean, but then again, in the, you know, in the knots, it became less about musicianship and more about showmanship and marketability. So, I think it was just this sort of magical bubble. You know what I mean? Like from 90 to 99, from the beginning until, you know, Brit stepped onto the scene, basically. You know, when women were, it was less about TNA and more about G chords.
Yeah.
Instead of G strings.
I get you.
And it was magical. And we who grew up, you know, females who grew up in that time were so blessed. You know what I mean? Like, we got to see women go on stage, you know, like women like Sheryl Crow, who her very first entire album, it was less about what she looked like and everything about what she could do.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen anymore. Now women have to, you know, they have to get over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they have to sell the image before they can sell their music.
Which sucks.
But it is what it is. And that, you know, it happens in cycles, and that happened in the 70s and 80s. And so hopefully Excuse me. And so hopefully
In the next 3 to 5 years?
in the next, if the cycle holds true, in the next few years, we'll see that again.
Sweet. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
Because, and I mean, like, I grew up with Britpop.
Right.
And like I said last week, most of the female artists in the UK, save the handful that we've mentioned here, they were pop, but they were more edgy pop. I guess the way you can describe it would be adult contemporary. As you do it now, they weren't necessarily they weren't bubblegum pop. They were they were talking about adult issues, but in the UK it was more genres were intermingling with each other,
right?
And they were accepted. You'd have like a rock
fusion,
band,
yeah.
You'd have the Chemical Brothers opening for Oasis,
right?
They couldn't be too further away in terms of the style of music, but they were treated equally. Whereas now genres are barricaded. Over here, it seemed like female artists were getting more and more respect as rock stars because they were equally as talented, equal musicianship, equal songwriting, and as we mentioned with the grunge movement last week, the guys coming through didn't see the females as anything more than
right
they're contemporaries, as opposed to, that's a hot chick,
Right.
So, all right, Sarah, the last 2 weeks have been really, really good. We've got one more week to go, and we're going to take a look at 4 albums that you picked.
Ding, ding, ding.
Of some of the greatest female rock acts of the 90s, 4 albums. They are Tuesday Night Music Club, Live Through This,
right?
Jagged Little Pill,
yes, and
a surprise album.
Ooh.
It's not really a surprise. We already done the social media question. It's been in there. I just can't remember off the top of my head. I'm so tired, everybody. All right, Sarah, it's been great talking to you. We will continue our conversation soon.
Yes.
And
I'm going to go to sleep while you mix this.
Yes.
Because in between last recording and this recording, we got a new mattress. And this mattress is so freaking snuggly.
Yes, it is.
Laying down on it, you almost feel drunk.
Yeah.
Like, I never would have thought to get a full memory foam mattress before. But this bad boy is the bomb.
And just out of curiosity, if you want to send us a check for endorsing this mattress,
yes,
you can send it to, it's spelled John. That's John.
I don't give brand names, but it's very nice.
No, but Sarah, thank you for joining us. We're going to take a quick look at one of the greatest minds of the 90s here in just a second. She knows what I'm talking about. And there's a clue who it is. Sarah, we will see you next week.
Thank you, dear.
Are you in need of knowing your future? Are you wanting to reconnect with a lost loved one or say goodbye to that old school friend? Do you need to know if you are going to marry the man or woman of your dreams? Well, even though nothing in this world is able to reach the great beyond, do we have a solution for you? If you go to your email right now, you will find that former playwright and totally not fake Jamaican Miss Cleo has an offer just for you. You have been issued with a special free tarot reading, which you will also be charged for, and answered by Miss Cleo herself, and definitely not by one of her associates working in a call center. You can have your future read by someone who was not born in California to American parents by using a set of spooky cards that were designed for a card game, not divination, with chilling accuracy. Call us now at 1-800-TOTALLY-NOT-FRAUD and we will give you a special coupon code to use in your compensation package with the Federal Trade Commission. Call today! Just remember, if you draw the death card, that actually means good things. I saw a sign outside a medium's office and it said closed for unforeseen circumstances. So, I always find a giggle when I see stuff like that. So, guys, if you are on social media, you've probably seen our social media question of this week. And the question was, and I asked it last week on the podcast as well, who was the greatest female musician of all time in rock? I'm going to pick 5 of the best answers that I've got. One of them is Sarah's opinion. So, we're going to get right into it. Carol from Florida says Janis, Pink, Stevie Nicks, and Etta James because she was just awesome. Emma in the United Kingdom, she says, there are loads. Tina Turner, Pat Benatar, Aretha, Lita Ford, Cher, the list could go on. Jerry of Shreveport, Louisiana, she says, I have lots of opinions and keep looking at it from different angles. But my final answer, Ann Wilson of Heart. You said rock musician. She has an amazing rock voice and she plays guitar, so she bests my other top contenders. Stevie Nicks, Pat Benatar, Joan Jett, and Janis Joplin are also high on my list. I asked Sarah, she didn't give it in the interview, I forgot to ask her during the thing, but she actually said that her greatest female musicians are either Courtney or Stevie Nicks. And finally we have Travis in Shreveport, Louisiana, who said Selena Gomez. And this is why you don't let family comment on your projects to do. Travis, quit wasting my time. No, I love you, brother. So that's really it for this week. If you guys are on social media, like I mentioned earlier on the show, go to Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Look at Because Maybe Pod. And next week's social media question is this. What is the best album out of Tuesday Night Music Club, Jagged Little Pill, Live Through This, and Last Splash by the Breeders? One thing that we did not talk about was Kim Deal, so I'll get to that at the beginning of next week's episode. But in the meantime, we are going to look at those 4 albums next week, and once again, I'm going to be joined by Sarah for our final lap of the Women of Rock. And I've had a lot of fun producing this. I've had a lot of fun listening to some new music. I hope you guys are listening to it who haven't heard some of this stuff. Go ahead and have a look. Especially if you're in America and you haven't heard of things like Catatonia and PJ Harvey and Elastica and so on and so forth. Then again, on the other hand, you know, if you're in the UK, look up Lillith Fair. That's really what I got. So guys, until next week, hopefully we'll be back on time, you know, middle of the day as opposed to middle of the night. Hopefully we're back on time. I'm looking forward to doing some more speaking with you, but in the meantime, it's been a very, very hectic weekend and I'm going to shut down. So you guys take it easy, and we'll see you next week.